MMA is one of the most brutal sports there is. Every time a fighter takes to the cage, they're running the risk of serious injury or even on the rarest of occasions, death. And over the years, we've seen some pretty horrific injuries, from broken bones to shattered skulls. Today, we're discussing some of the most brutal injuries in UFC history, so stay right where you are. First up, it's many people's greatest of all time, Anderson Silva. The GOAT is coming back through. Back in 2013, Anderson Silva took on the dangerous Chris Weidman in an instant rematch after losing his title to the American a few months previous. As Weidman shocked the world by knocking out the Spider. Many people thought lightning would not strike twice and Silva would comfortably regain his title, but it didn't quite play out that way. Around 1 minute and 16 seconds of the second round, Silva delivered a low leg kick to the champ, but got his timing slightly off and connected bone on bone. The impact instantly snapped his own shin bone, wrapping his lower leg around Weidman's in one of the most sickening scenes of all time. Many people have suggested since that this is the fight that actually finished the great Brazilian's career and not the previous one. He did return to the octagon, but he was a shadow of his former self, winning just one in his last 7 MMA fights. He has since gone on to box professionally, knocking Tito Ortiz out, as well as beating former WBC middleweight champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. via a split decision. What do you guys make of Silva's run as undisputed best mixed martial artist back in the day? Let us know now, below. Next up, it's Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Joanna Jędrzejczyk took on Chinese brawler Zhang Weili back in 2020 in what many people have claimed is the greatest fight of all time, certainly the greatest women's MMA fight of all time. And after the fight, Joanna looked as if she had been in the greatest mixed martial arts fight of all time. There's no doubt about it. The fight was an epic back and forth across 5 rounds, with both fighters landing bombs, with Joanna just losing a split decision. However, it was her appearance which made news after the fight, as Weili's aggressive punches left the Polish fighter with an unbelievably swollen forehead, which some people had quite distastefully compared to an alien, which will just give you some idea of just how bad the forehead had actually swollen. It had ballooned up so badly that she needed instant medical attention, as it was almost double its normal size. Thankfully, Joanna suffered no long-term damage, but she easily could have. She would return to the octagon 2 years later, losing again to Zhang, who put in a performance of the night to knock Joanna out in the second. Many people believe the injuries sustained in the first fight with Zhang added to Joanna's decision to retire, but she will forever be remembered for the warrior-like performance she put on when she sustained that terrible injury. Who is your favorite female fighter? Matt Mitrione is up next. Stay tuned. Mitrione turned out in the heavyweight division of the UFC, and whilst you would probably expect a horrible heavyweight injury to have been caused by a huge blow, this one was actually caused by an eye poke as he went up against Travis Brown. Fighting on the undercard of the highly anticipated Cruz vs. Dillashaw bout back in 2016, Brown had already gotten away with one eye poke, before again delivering another to Mitrione. The former American football player's eye reacted badly and almost instantly swelled up. Brown finished Mitrione in the third. However, Illinois native Mitrione literally couldn't see out of his right eye as a golf ball-sized welt developed above it. The eyelid and the flesh around his orbital bone had swelled up so badly that it seemed as though somebody had literally inserted a spherical object under the eyelid. Commentator Mike Goldberg suggested that it might have been from one of the pokes in the eye in one of the most obvious statements of all time. After the fight, Brown claimed that it was a punch that did the damage, but that seems unlikely given the 2 eye pokes. Whatever caused the injury, it was one of the most horrific facial injuries we've ever seen in the octagon, which is why eye pokes are so dangerous and fighters are given up to 5 minutes to regain their composure after receiving one. Conor McGregor is coming through now. Stay with us. McGregor took on Dustin Poirier in their rubber match in the summer of 2021, but the fight was stopped in the first round after McGregor appeared to have broken his own leg. The injury is thought to have first occurred in training, but hadn't actually caused the break yet. But when McGregor attacked the leg of Poirier by kicking it, the lower leg finally gave way, along with his career, many have claimed. As Conor moved back to set up another attack, he planted his foot on the mat but instantly fell down as the ankle area gave way. The leg was clearly broken as the Irishman was sprawled out on the mat and the bottom part of the leg actually bent back, similar to the Anderson Silva injury. McGregor is thought to be on the road to recovery and will shortly make his comeback to the sport he once dominated, but surely won't challenge at the top of the lightweight rankings ever again. What did you make of this horrible injury? Give us your thoughts below. We're talking Tim Sylvia now. Stick around. Tim Sylvia was a heavyweight pioneer back in the day, and when he came up against BJJ expert Frank Mir, he wasn't about to simply tap after being caught in an armbar, although he should have. At UFC 48 back in 2004, Mir and Sylvia contested the UFC heavyweight title, but the fight didn't last too long. Mir locked in a pretty deep armbar and didn't let go. I mean, he didn't have to. It was on Sylvia to tap, but he refused to do so. Mir continued to attack the arm, pulling it past the elbow and eventually breaking it completely. Many people derided Sylvia Fightopia for not tapping, but others commended him for his toughness. Undoubtedly, he should have tapped, but he decided not to, and for this reason, he makes today's list as one of the most brutal injuries in UFC history. However self-inflicted it might have been. What is the worst UFC injury in your opinion? Next up, it's Leslie Smith. Combat sports athletes often suffer from what's known as cauliflower ear, the condition which is caused by continual rubbing of the ears when grappling or boxing. And Leslie Smith had some pretty brutal cauliflower ear. During her fight with Jessica I at UFC 180, Smith inadvertently pointed out the dangers of fighting with cauliflower ear, as her left ear literally exploded after a right hand from Evil Eye. The punch missed its intended target, which almost certainly would have been the temple, instead landing directly on the ear, instantly splitting open with blood flying everywhere. Of course, the doctor had seen enough and instantly called off the fight, as Smith's ear was literally hanging off. After the fight, she actually joked that her modeling days were over, but she did live to fight another day. She would spend another 3 years in UFC before moving on to Bellator, where she's still fighting to this day. What a warrior. What did you make of Smith's horrific ear injury? Give us your thoughts below. Jon Jones is up next. Stay with us. Many people's GOAT, Jones, took on Chael Sonnen back in April 2013, winning the fight via TKO after some brutal elbows and punches. However, he was actually fighting with a completely disfigured toe after coming together with Sonnen, which bent his toe back, snapping it at the same time. The fact that Jones was able to compartmentalize the injury and carry on is why many people regard him as the greatest to ever do it. Who is your GOAT? And finally, it's Alistair Overeem. The Reem is one of the greatest kickboxers and mixed martial artists of all time. He has now been fighting for 2 decades, so you would probably expect someone so deep in the game to appear on a list like this, right? The Dutch legend was on the receiving end of one of the most iconic knockouts of all time after being slept by Francis Ngannou back in 2017, but recovered to win another 4 fights in the UFC. However, he was also beaten by Jairzinho Rozenstruik during that run, receiving another horrendous injury along the way. After the big Surinamese landed a huge shot to the mouth of Reem, his top lip instantly split open all the way up to the nose. Of course, he has a pretty obvious scar on his top lip these days, thanks to the huge blow from Rozenstruik. What is the most gruesome injury of all time in your opinion? Let us know below. As always, thanks for stopping in today, and remember to join us next time for some more fun and games. Also, why not do us a favor by sharing today's video with any UFC fan friends you might have lying about on those socials. Bye guys.